I will share with you a moment which was at some point very embarrassing for me personally. Before the rabbinic school, I went to Jerusalem and studied in yeshiva for a year. And the idea was for me to do two things: to learn Hebrew and to learn English. And at some point, I heard a new word for me. Now I know it, but then it was new for me. And this is not a pleasant word. This word was disgusting. I didn't know this word existed. And I thought for myself that this word comes from the word discuss. And I thought that if something is worth of a discussion, then it's disgusting. So you can see the logic there. But it wasn't the case. And I used it extensively. And then I looked it up in a dictionary. So what I did is I tried to figure out the root of the word and apply it to life. It didn't work. And in fact, English from this perspective, English is different from Hebrew. Because Hebrew is a language in which most of the words have 3 letters in their root. And in Hebrew, it would have worked. You could figure out the meaning of the word by just looking at the root and figure out which conjugation this word or this verb is, and therefore you can do it in Hebrew. So there is another example of such interesting play with Hebrew roots in this week's Torah portion. It's Parashat Nitzavim. It's a double Torah portion, but one of them is Parashat Nitzavim. So the context of this parasha. In it, Moses continues to deliver his speech to Israelites just before they enter the promised land. And in it, he reestablishes the covenant between God and the people, and through them, with all future generations. It's a fascinating moment in the story that says that every one of you who is standing here is establishing the covenant. And not just here, not just those who are here in front of me, but also those who are not in front of me. It's questionable from legal perspective today, but that's in a way how we are. Sometimes we make decisions for our children without consulting them, without seeking their consent. Sometimes our decisions will affect the life of future generations. In a way, you can see the meaning behind it, but it's not about it. So, however, the covenant will only last, Moses say, if people don't worship other gods. If people break their part, then devastation, plagues, and curses will fall upon the people. And after saying that, Moses promises that they will not be entirely forsaken, even if they break covenant, if they return to it afterwards, and meaning to all its parts, all the agreements, which is in biblical language it's blessings, all the good parts, and all consequences, so all curses, everything. If people return to all of it and commit to it, then God will forgive them and restore them to their land, allowing them another opportunity, giving them another opportunity. God, says Moses, is setting the choice of life and death, of blessing and curse before the people. And at the end, there is a conclusion: please choose life. So you have a choice, but please try to choose the path of life. So, and this is the verse I am very interested in. In the middle of this speech, Moses says, והיה כי יבואו עליך כל הדברים האלה הברכה והקללה אשר נתתי לפניך. And when all these things come upon you, the blessing and the curse, which I have said before you, and then please don't worry, you're not going to be completely forsaken. So this is the middle of the speech. These two words I'm very interested in. One of the words is derived from the root berech, the word bracha, which means blessing. And the word klala, which means curse, comes from the root either kuf lamed hey or kuf lamed lamed, either kala or kalal. So the root berech for the word of the blessing comes from a root meaning knee. Knee, a person's knee. That, by the way, is the reason why there is a tradition to bow down when we say the word bracha. For example, the blessing, Baruch atah Adonai. So in some synagogues, you will see this gesture, Baruch, right? So the word ni, Baruch atah Adonai. So possibly in the past, the Jewish worship looked a little bit like modern Muslim worship, when people would kneel at certain words and stand on their knees. And that's speculation based on the root of this word, blessing, which means knee. So what does the bowing demonstrate if we, for example, bow in front of a person? Why do people bow to somebody? So I think that it shows the highest level of respect. And therefore, you can derive from this the meaning. You may argue that the understanding, the undercurrent meaning of the word blessing is respect. So what is a blessing for somebody? Is to be respected. Then, the second word, klala, which is curse. The root, let's say kalal or kala. There is a school of thought among some Hebrew scholars, although it is not very highly, it's not accepted by majority. But still, there is a school of thought that says that the first two letters are the most important. And here are some cases, and there are some cases in Judaism, in Hebrew language, when there is a clear connection between the word that shares the first two letters, but the third letter is different. So, and the word klala is one of such cases. The first two letters, kuf and lamet, give you the word kal, which mean light in weight, or not heavy. So, what English word would have the opposite meaning of the word respect? Well, we would say disrespect, but what's the meaning of the word disrespect? I think when a person doesn't have enough weight in society, isn't given enough weight in the way how people approach and listen to this person, this is the opposite of respect. So for example, there's a commandment or like a reminder when Moses reminds people of one of the commandments, respect one's parents. Moses says, Aru mekaleh aviv ve'imo, cursed be the one who is mekaleh, dishonors. The same root as this one, klala, who treats some people with light weight, his father and mother. So it led me to quite a journey, this. So about respect to others and disrespect to others as a way to say blessing and curse. And I came across this quote from Martin Buber. And this Martin Buber wrote, and by the way, this is his commentary on the story of creation of the world, and specifically to the story of the serpent. So when the serpent seduced Adam and Eve, and they ate from the forbidden fruit, and the serpent then was punished So did people, but the serpent is the most important part of Martin Buber's writing. He writes, that tender surface of personal life, which longs for contact with other life, is progressively deadened or desensitized. Man's isolation is not overcome here, but overpowered and numbed. So, it's Martin Buber, so it needs explanation. So Buber wrote this as his understanding of the Garden and of Eden story. So he recalls one of the Hasidic rabbis, one of the leaders in Hasidic Judaism in Poland, who was once asked about serpent's punishment. Do you remember what the punishment of the serpent was? It was that dirt shall you eat all the days of your life. So at first glance, so the serpent, who was the cause of this bad thing that happened to people, at first glance it appears more of a reward than a curse. So, because dirt shall you eat, dirt, earth, shall you eat all the days of your life. It means that food is always here, in front of you. You don't need to do anything to eat. You don't need to work for it. It's everywhere. So what kind of a curse is it? It's a blessing. You don't need to work for your food. And then this rabbi replied that having all you need is more of a curse than a blessing. It means never having to rely on anyone, God or others. And I found it fascinating. So by creating people with fragile and with fragility of the human condition, with dependence on others, God wants us to need each other. Well, this is the outcome of this commentary. And to know that we need one another, we need relationship in order to survive and having good and meaningful life. So therefore, the word for blessing is heavy. It requires work, sometimes being on your knees. And the word curse is about taking everything lightly, with no respect, no commitment or honor. So in today's world, it's very simple, I think, very easy to be lost in so many different meanings, interpretations. But we can always give support and show respect to each other, and therefore be blessed and give blessings. And I think this is such a meaningful way of looking at blessing, treating people with respect, requiring some work towards others. Also, at least once a week, we can wish each other simple things, like asking how you are and saying Shabbat Shalom. And by the way, the word Shalom also means whole and complete. And this is just, I'll leave you there to figure out why.